Carole Pollard, and I'm a lecturer at TU Dublin in the School of Architecture, and I'm speaking today to 6 of the graduates from the School of Architecture, Architectural Technology and Timber Technology. With me I have Shane, who graduated from Architectural Technology in 2011 and he's working in Henry J. Lyons Architects. Cormac is graduated from Architecture in 2015 and he has recently returned from Toronto and now working in Dublin. Sarah graduated from Architectural Technology in 2015 and is working in Cabinet Architects. Chris graduated from Timber Technology in 2014 and he's working as a project manager and a lecturer in TU Dublin. And finally, Julie, who is coming all the way from New York. She graduated from Architecture in 2015 and is working with FFA in New York City. So first of all, I'm going to just ask you if you could tell us a little bit about your undergraduate training at TU Dublin, maybe your favourite parts and some lessons that you learned from it. Would you like to start with that, Cormac?
Yeah, sure. I suppose one thing that really hit me moving up from the Midlands was the fact that we were in a university in the city centre, and having the city at your doorstep was a real advantage to studying architecture because you could literally step outside and see a building that was either 10 years old or 200 years old. So that was great. And also one thing I didn't really expect going into it was kind of just how education was so different that it's not about learning something off and then writing it in an exam. It's actually about working with people in a studio who more than likely will become close friends, and kind of learning with them about things that you're actually really interested in and kind of using your own creative thinking, which was great.
Okay, good. And what about you, Sarah? How was your time?
Yeah, I suppose my favourite parts of college were probably similar to Cormac, kind of a city environment, but we also got to travel abroad. We went to Barcelona, we went to Berlin to look at architecture in different countries. So not only learning the building process of how we build buildings, but also looking at how they change from country to country. So I really enjoyed that part of it. And I suppose the thing I took away from it most was kind of similar, working as part of a team. In real life we work as consultants all together, so working as a team in college, and then also learning time management in college, which really paid off later on when we go out into our careers, and being able to manage multiple things at one time, lots of projects all at once.
Good. Okay, and Chris?
My favourite part of doing the course in TU Dublin was probably the variety. On the timber technology, we looked at both the practical and there was the theory elements of it as well. For myself, being able to utilise the CNC machine for the manufacture of furniture products, I found really helpful to drive on and try and build up more for when I brought out into industry. And then again, the staff, I always found them friendly, helpful, and full of information.
Good, good. And Shane?
Yeah, pretty much the same as what the others are saying there. The fact that it was in the middle of the city was great. You know, you could kind of go out and explore and look around. I was coming from Newbridge in Kildare, so there wasn't there was a big difference between my school experience here and my college experience in Dublin. But I suppose my favourite part was probably the studio environment, the sort of the social learning aspect where you're working with other people, you're meeting people from different parts of the country, sometimes different countries, and you're working together sort of in teams or on your own, and the variety of information you were working on and learning. It was just something different from the classroom experience that we would have had up until that point.
Yeah. And Julie?
Yeah, I guess just to add to everyone else, the studio environment obviously is a big one, but maybe to be a little bit more specific to architecture itself, one of the things I really loved, and maybe it's obvious because I'm here in New York now, is the opportunity to actually travel within the degree itself. And I myself took a year out, I know Cormac did too, and just how the mentoring shifts from the kind of the earlier years to the later years, and how you start to use the knowledge and the practice that you gained in these offices and bring them in, and then start to look at more specific topics that are more kind of honed into your own skill set and what you enjoy, and then finally bringing that into your thesis level. I really enjoyed that kind of progression in the education itself that TU Dublin has to offer.
Yeah, good. Sarah, I just see from your CV that you graduated in 2015 and you've already become an associate in the practice that you're working in. Congratulations, that's fantastic. I'm just wondering, do you think your education had a role in that kind of rapid progress that you've made?
Yeah, absolutely. I graduated in 2015, and the practice I'm currently working for, I would have, or I did get my job originally through the college at my final crit. So TU Dublin had panels of external examiners, and some of the panel people were looking to hire. So I actually got my job through TU Dublin. I then worked for a year, and after a year decided to go back to TU Dublin again and do a master's in applied building information modelling and management. So that then progressed me in my career to become a BIM manager within the same practice. And then opportunities just opened within the practice that I could become an associate. So it definitely all led from day one, walking out of college into a new office, and then just led from there. So yeah.
Yeah, good. And Chris, you were telling me that you moved from the more kind of practical end of your profession into project management, and now you're teaching. Is that an option open to many graduates from your course, or are you maybe you could tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. For myself, it was more of a natural progression. Like that, I had completed an apprenticeship. I had done the degree, so I had all the practical hands-on experience. And the degree helped to give me the more business end of it, that I could go in kind of in a more managerial role, with the technical ability that I already had. For the new course that we're developing, the sustainable timber technology, it's going to hopefully give a much broader aspect. So it's going to look from, say, the forest to the finished product. So there will be a bigger scope of jobs that will be available to the graduates on completing the course.
Great. Okay. And then Julie, working abroad, working in different countries, do you think your training helped you in that regard in finding work in the United States?
No, yeah, absolutely. I guess it's funny because when you look at America, right, and you see all these Ivy League schools on paper, and it's a little bit intimidating, and they obviously have this like very established reputation. But I think one of the things about TU Dublin, or I guess maybe Ireland in particular, with the education practices, it's very specific to architecture, right? So we're getting very detailed practice, where coming from America, a lot of these schools, they may do their major in maths or English and then go on and add their 2 years to then study architecture. So that was kind of an upper hand for myself coming in. Obviously, I was overwhelmed by suddenly I'm working in square, like feet and inches, coming from a metric system, and just I'm still boggled. Now, if I went home, I wouldn't know what to do, with a millimeter. I'd be like overwhelmed. But that, that's the initial walking in the door, being like, oh gosh, this is different. But then honestly, just everything I've learned in my 5 years, and obviously my year out as well, really held to me, and gave me a lot of confidence and knowledge from the get-go to just start off on the right foot.
Good. And Shane, I mean, you're working as part of a team. The practice you work in delivers some of the biggest projects in Dublin at the moment. How are you finding that?
Yeah, it's great. I suppose the thing about the big jobs is there's lots of variety. No two days are the same. No two projects tend to be the same. So you could be in meetings all day one day, and you could be on site all day the next. You could be, you're running from place to place, dealing with contractors, suppliers, clients, colleagues, other consultants. You're kind of you're in the thick of everything. And it's just there's never sort of monotony or a boring day. Everything is sort of all go all the time, and it's really interesting. It's really interesting work, and it's very satisfying at the end of it all when you look at the finished project and get to look back on it. So, and we rarely do that, I suppose. We always just look forward, but it is good to sort of take time at the end of a project to look back. And generally, when you're in a big team, you do that together with a team, and you might do it in one of the venues around town maybe, and enjoy a bit of a night out as well. But yeah, it's good. It's very good.
Good. And Cormac, I know that you've also forged yourself a bit of a career as a writer, an architectural writer, and I'm just thinking maybe you could talk to us a little bit about how architecture maybe opens doors into other avenues.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, going into TU Dublin, I kind of had thought that an architecture degree would mean that you would definitely be an architect. And just to look at all of many of my colleagues that I studied with, like people have ended up in a lot of different sort of creative industries, architecture adjacent, we'll say, and it really has opened up doors for people. Like I have colleagues who I studied with who work in 3D visualizations, urban design and planning, filmmaking, theatre design, conservation architecture, of course, and even furniture design. So really, it doesn't hold you back or limit you, and it's a very good education in building science. What I find is that there's three parts to it really. There's the creative side of architecture, which everyone knows. There's the technical side of architecture, which I think TU Dublin was really strong in kind of helping you understand how a building is put together. And then there's also the academic side. And I personally didn't know about the academic side really going into it, and how much writing architects have to do all the time in terms of writing reports, writing letters, writing competition entries. It's a huge part of the job. And I was lucky in my education to really kind of get some great guidance. A lot of the lecturers in TU Dublin are actually very talented writers, as well as being architects. So it really helped me actually. I know when I was filling out my CEO form, I was kind of torn between journalism or architecture, and I didn't realize that by studying architecture, I could kind of hone that other interest of mine as well. So I'm really thankful for that.
Yeah, that's great, great. Okay, we're just going to finish up now. I'm going to do a kind of a quick fire question for each of you, and it's really just could you tell us whether your 18-year-old self would be happy, amazed, astounded, or just kind of go, well, yeah, I thought so, at the career you're in now. So Chris, what about you?
I'd probably say 18-year-old Chris would be amazed that
Yeah.
I'd be back in education. Once I did the apprenticeship, I kind of thought that was it.
Yeah.
Then I ended up coming back doing the degree, and now I'm actually back teaching in TU Dublin as well. So it's kind of gone full circle, but it's nice to be able to bring back the industry experience back into the college, and to give the students the variety and the experience of what I've come across within industry.
Good. And what about you, Julie?
18-year-old me, yeah, I think I'd probably be surprised that I'm still in America. Probably would have been expected back in Europe by now. But definitely very happy. Like the responsibility I get over here, being able to lead designs, and just do a broad range of not only project types, but just general roles every single day is quite astonishing. I think maybe I'd be wondering, should I be doing a little bit more art directed things, maybe more installations? But I think what's nice about the career, and Cormac already picked up on it, is that I'm sure 10 years from now, I'm going to be just as surprised and happy where I am. If it leads me down a different path, it's all of the kind of advantages of what this career has. So yeah.
Good. And Shane, what about you?
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about it until it was mentioned there earlier on. It's not something we're great at, is looking back. I don't think as a profession, we're always looking forward. But yeah, I think 18-year-old me would be he'd be somewhat amazed, I suppose. He'd be happy because I remember when I was 18 and I got the offer for college, and I had another offer for another course, and all my friends were going to that college, and I was torn between it, and I was kind of worried that you'd lose your group of friends and everything. And I'm still friends with them people today, even though I went in a different direction. They're still very close friends, so I still have all my friends from home, and I've made great friends along the way in college, and just the experiences I've had and the places I've got to see, the projects I've got to work on, and the opportunities. Like I'm back teaching in college as well now. I'm back on the course, so I kind of completed the circle there, and yeah, I think he'd be happy.
Good. And what about you, Cormac?
Yeah, well, 18-year-old me was in his second semester of architecture. When I turned 18, I was a bit young, so I guess I had a bit of an idea of what it was ahead.
Okay.
But I definitely, one thing that does stand out looking back over the last 10 years is just how an architecture degree is actually a license, and people have said this, but a license to actually travel the world, and the education that you get in TU Dublin. I mean, it transferred. I've worked in France, in Rotterdam, and now in Toronto. And it's been kind of like a seamless introduction, and also TU Dublin does have a great reputation internationally, so it's a real opportunity, to move even when you are studying, like when I did an Erasmus program, or took a year out, and then afterwards, you're not limited to one country, one culture. You could kind of decide tomorrow to move to a completely different place, and that's not something you could say for many careers. So that's something that does actually astound me, and I'm sure 18-year-old me would not have expected that.
Yeah. And finally, Sarah, how would your 18-year-old self?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think 18-year-old Sarah had a clue what was ahead. Like that, with opportunities, travel, as we talked about, like progression earlier. I think when I walked into the doors of TU Dublin, I thought, like, it was just kind of like going to school. You've just finished secondary school. It's a completely different world, making friends, like while learning, but just growing as a person, and then coming out the doors of TU Dublin ready to start a career and only progress up. So yeah, I think I'd be in shock if I knew what was coming.
Yeah, good. Listen, that was great. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Cheers.